Good morning. We look today at Leviticus 19 and 20. And the last words in chapter 18, as well as, kind of the first words in chapter 18 were, I am the Lord your God. And in chapter 19, we see that phrase, or I am the Lord your God, or I am the Lord, 14 times. I mean, this is, God is speaking to the people about ritual and moral righteousness, doing things the right way. And he starts in, verse 2, speak to the congregation of the people and say, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Again, what a wonderful thing to be reminded of. And God reminds us of that several times, especially in Leviticus, and we'll find it other places as well. And then in verse 3, it's you shall revere your father and mother, and you shall keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. And again, verse 4, do not turn to idols. I am the Lord your God. And then he talks about the sacrifice of well-being. And in verse 9, it says, when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap the very edges. You shall not gather every grape out of your grapevines. You shall leave them for the poor and the needy. And remember in the Gospels, Jesus and his disciples come and they are picking some of the grain from the field. And people think, well, that's outright theft. Well, no, they're picking some of the grain that was left, just as God had commanded here in Leviticus. So some of that grain that Jesus and his disciples were gathering was left there for the poor, for the traveler, for the people that needed to have it. So here we find that, way back in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 9, about don't reap everything in your fields. I mean, today we combine and we don't do that anymore. I mean, our combines, our harvesters, invariably leave a little bit of seed in the ground. Some blows over the back, and some gets knocked off in the head or the header, and so there are some gleanings there, and we find the wild animals, grazing upon that and the regrowth from those things. And I think of like the potato harvests when they go in and they harvest the potatoes. Not every potato gets picked out of the field by that potato picker. And I know the people in the Red River Valley here that will go out and gather potatoes that are left in the field, and the farmers don't have an issue with that. I mean, because it's there. So here we find, way back in Leviticus, a reason that there was grain for Jesus and his disciples to go and to pick. You shall not strip your vineyard bare, leave some there. And then again, I am the Lord your God in verse 10. Verse 11, you shall not steal, deal falsely, lie. Verse 12, I am the Lord your God. And so it's, God is reminding them, I'm the one in charge. I'm the one who chose you. I'm the one who created. And I'm going to be there. I have chosen you to be my people. And, he says that, and you shall not slander your neighbor. I am the Lord your God. You shall not hate in your heart anyone of your kin. And in verse 18, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. And this is known, we know that, it's the great commandment. And when Jesus is visiting with his disciples, shortly before he's arrested and crucified, he says, a new commandment I give you, love your neighbor as I have loved you, And so this is, an expansion, love your neighbor as yourself, love your neighbor as I have loved you. This is what Jesus says to us, not, and do you love yourself more than you love Jesus? I mean, that's a hard question, so it's, love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus says, love your neighbor as I have loved you. Jesus loved us enough to die for us. I mean, that's quite something. In verse 19, you shall keep my statutes, and you shall not sow your fields with two kinds of seeds, nor you shall put on a garment made with two different materials. Whoa, we're in trouble there. I mean, there aren't very many garments that are 100% cotton or 100% wool, or, so many things are blended, but, so I don't feel bad about that today, wearing something that's, 75% polyester and 25% cotton, or, whatever they are. I don't know all those blends, but, it's, God is specific in telling his people what he expects from them, from us, you know. And then he goes on and he talks about, again, sexual relations. I mean, we had the whole of chapter 18 basically dealt with sexual relations and stuff. And so God, again, just one chapter later, he is going back over that, showing how important it is to God for us to be committed in our relationships and right in our relationships. And then verse 28 is one that, you know, it's a hard one for an awful lot of people today. And it says, you shall not make any carvings or gashes on your flesh for the dead, or tattoo any marks on your body, for I am the Lord. I mean, tattoos are so common these days. I mean, I know an awful lot of pastors who have tattoos, but I remember quite a few years ago, a young kind of maybe a senior in high school came to his pastor and said, you know, excited, you know, Dad said that if I can get a tattoo, if you said it's okay, but if it's not, he says he's going to grind it off with a grinder. And his pastor said, well, go read what it says in Leviticus 19:28. And he went in the office and grabbed the Bible and opened it up and came out kind of crestfallen, because here in the Bible, you know, it said, you know, that. But in today's society, again, I mean, tattoos are so common and so prevalent, and I've had many people show me, you know, a cross or Jesus in a heart or different things, you know, showing their love for God in a tattoo. And so, I mean, how do you deal with some of this stuff? I mean, it's we just, I don't know. It is what it is. But, you know, again, it's, you know, God continues to say, you know, don't profane your daughter or make her a prostitute. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't turn to mediums and wizards. And if someone is a medium or a wizard, you know, cast them out of society. And again, you know, there's just this, I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. And it just goes, I mean, he's reminding us, you know, said the last verse in chapter 19, you shall keep all of my statutes and all of my ordinances and observe them. I am the Lord your God. He says, it's just like mom and dad saying, you know, this is your curfew. This is what you will do. These are your chores for the day. These are our expectations for you. And not just expectations, but this is what you need to accomplish. And so, you know, it's, I am the Lord your God. In verse 20, he goes back into talking about the penalties for sins and different things. And it starts off with, you know, you shall not give any of your offspring to Molech, M-O-L-E-C-H. And we first saw Molech's name in chapter 18. I didn't say anything about it, but Molech was one of the Ammonite gods, an idol. And they would sacrifice children to this god, Molech. And so God is saying, don't sacrifice your children to this false god of the Ammonites. That's not the right thing to do. He says, I will not hold anybody innocent that does that. You will be guilty and you will be punished. You know, they are to be cut off from the people. And so Molech's name is mentioned, I think 3 times or so in verses, you know, 2 through 5 here, just reminding us not to worship false idols, not to get caught up in the customs of non-Christians, you know, non-believers in God. I mean, I can't just say non-Christians, because there are other denominations that are not Christian that believe in God, that don't believe in Jesus, but, you know, there's this fine line, because there's still a huge Jewish contingency in the world. Verse 6, if you turn to a medium or wizard, you know, I'll set my face against them. You know, and then verse 7, consecrate yourselves, therefore be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Consecrate means to make yourself holy, to set yourself aside as holy, to remember that you are God's, that you are different from the world. So, and again, keep my statutes and observe them. I am the Lord, I sanctify you. Sanctify, set apart for God. So here again, we have that, I am the Lord, I'm doing this for you. and this is what I expect of you again. You know, and again he says, if you curse your father or mother, you shall be put to death. I mean, woo, that's pretty serious. And then again, you know, if a man commits adultery with his daughter, with his neighbor, with his sister-in-law, with his mother-in-law, with, you know, it's all of these different things, and, you know, they're to be put to death. And that leads me to think, you know, when this woman caught in adultery in the New Testament was brought to Jesus, and they say, we caught this woman in adultery. What do you think we should do? And he sat and he kind of wrote in the ground, and he, you know, he said, you know, the first one of you that is without sin, cast the first stone. And they all left, beginning with the eldest, it says. The elders were the leaders. The elders were the ones that people looked up to. So they brought the woman, but they didn't bring the man that she was caught with. And in the Old Testament, in Leviticus, it's both of them are guilty and are to be put to death. But here, you know, these people in the New Testament just brought the woman because it's all a woman's fault. We all know that, right? Oh, Cheryl's in trouble. I'm in trouble with Cheryl now for that said. But we know it's not that at all. But when one is guilty, both are guilty. It's just the way it is. So the remainder of chapter 20 talks about penalties that God will expect the Israelite people to put upon those who are guilty of sin and committing these indiscretions. And again, as we come to the end of chapter 20, verse 26, you shall be holy to me, for I, the Lord God, am holy, and I have separated you from other peoples to be mine. You know, and again, God is saying, you are holy because I am holy, and I have separated you, I have sanctified you, I have set you apart to be mine. I've set you apart, I have chosen you. I have chosen you. He says, I haven't chosen all people, but I have chosen you. And so these, you know, he's talking to the Jewish community, the Israelite community. And now in Jesus Christ, I mean, the Gentiles, everybody. Jesus came for all people, for many people, because not all are going to believe. So we'll continue our journey through Leviticus in the next few days. So God's blessings today, as always.